two.
تذكر يوما كنت تعانق دمعة الفكر تناجي الله في صبر وترجو رحمة تسري فعاش القلب إخلاصا وصرت تحوم كالطير تحلق في ثقافات.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, everyone. Inshallah, today we are back, and forgive me about the video that's playing right there. Get to it in 1 second. Alright, Bismillah wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. This is another episode of The Indigenous Muslim, Motivational Muslims. Today's topic is Help, My Roommate is Gay. But, inshallah, before anyone jumps to any assumptions, this wasn't because any of us had a roommate that was gay or anything, but just because a lot of times we find ourselves as Muslims in this postmodern world in situations where we're grilled about how we treat homosexuals and how we treat gay people and whether we want to throw them off a cliff or stone every last one of them or whatever the preconceived notions may be. But before we do that, we'd like to just go through quickly this video that has been very popular on Facebook. You know, it's got millions of views, and it's by a Muslim. And by no means are we coming at him or attacking his character or anything, but just to look at it from an objective analysis of the claims that he makes in the videos. And Ustad Halim right here, inshallah ta'ala, will be addressing those claims. Now, Ustad Halim, if you could introduce yourself.
Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ba'ad. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I would begin by saying that I didn't know about the topic of homosexuality until about 5 minutes ago, and so we'll see how that goes, inshallah. As far as the video, we wanted to address some of these things. I was asked about this video. I was asked to talk about some of the things in this video, and so this is we'll see where it goes, inshallah, and may Allah give us tawfiq. Ameen.
Alright, Jazakallah khair, Ustad Halim. We're going to go ahead and start breaking down this video. Here it is.
In life, there are three things you shouldn't talk about: money, politics, and religion.
So, Ustad Halim, he says that there's three things we shouldn't talk about: money, politics, and religion. So why is that the case? And, I thought in a free society where you have freedom of speech, that's actually exactly what we should be talking about.
Well, if one was to go back into the time of the Founding Fathers, then they spent much of their time speaking about politics and religion. That is one of the things that, this country was founded upon, speaking about, having public discourse about both politics and religion. In our day and age, people have become so sensitive, and the reality is that no one wants to offend anyone else, and no one wants to be offended. And so we are encouraged to avoid speaking about politics and religion because it's socially taboo, because you might say something that offends someone. But the reality is that rather than avoiding speaking about politics and religion, it would be much healthier for us as individuals, and it would be much healthier for us as a society if, instead of avoiding them as a social taboo, we trained ourselves, we learned how to speak about them intelligently, inshallah ta'ala. As far as money, and this is something new. I mean, of course you don't go and ask somebody how much money do you make, or how much savings do you have. This is kind of an apparent thing, but the reality is that this isn't part of the original saying. The original saying is that we don't talk about politics and religion, and now money is something that's added on because of the day that we live in and where people's hearts are. Wallahu a'lam.
Alright, moving on.
So today I'm going to talk about religion. I was born and raised Muslim. I prayed 5 times a day. And in Ramadan, I fasted for 10 years. I was taught Islam was the only way to heaven, and I believed it. Then I...
Okay, so he was taught that Islam was the only way to heaven. And you know, he prayed for 5 years, fasted for 10 years, and mashallah did all these things. Is that true? Does Islam make this objective claim, or does Islam have a monopoly on pathways to heaven?
You know, Islam is Sirat al-Mustaqim, right? It is the straight path to Allah. It is Allah's path, and it is the path from God to God. It is the path that exposes us to the pleasure of Allah. Islam itself means submission. It doesn't mean peace, which is popular. It means submission. And so submitting oneself sincerely to Allah, adhering to the guidance revealed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is the way to gain nearness to Allah. And not only is that the way to gain nearness to Allah, if you gain nearness to Allah, if you expose yourself to the mercy of Allah, then this is, how do we get into paradise? How does anyone get into paradise? We enter into paradise by the grace of Allah. None of us can earn our way into paradise. None of us can get to paradise because of the good deeds that we've done. None of us can get to paradise because of our lineage or who we follow or the claims that we make. Rather, it is by the grace of God alone. And Islam, submitting yourself to Allah, is the way to expose yourself to that grace. Do we say only Muslims go to heaven? You know, it's an interesting thing about Islam that we find is that all other religions, well, that's too broad of a generalization. Let me say many other religions, they don't stop by saying that only they go to heaven. They also go as far as saying everyone else goes to hell. And the reality is that in Islam, we do not believe that only Muslims go to heaven, nor do we believe that all Muslims or no Muslims will go to hell. This isn't from our beliefs. This isn't from our understanding.
Jazakallah khairan, Ustad Halim. That's actually interesting because I was listening to a talk by Hamza Yusuf the other day, and he said that he came across his neighbors. They were Catholic. They were very nice. I'm not sure if they were neighbors or just community members. And he said, you know, there's no way that all of these people out there who don't know about Islam and aren't truly, you know, they haven't actually been given the opportunity to learn about Islam, are just all going to get thrown into hellfire. So
there's a problem, though. There's a problem with not with what he's saying and not with what you're saying, but there's a problem with this concept of saying, you know, it's all of these people, it's not feasible for all of them to go to hell or whatever the case might be. And I want to stop right now and say it seems as though, honestly speaking, it seems as though this is a different video from the one that I had watched and the one that I had come, right? I had thought about on my way here to discuss, because none of these things, right, are in the video that I watched. Not a problem, right? It doesn't matter. It's a general topic. We'll deal with it. La bas, mashallah. So what I would say about this is that, you know, when the message has come clearly to a person and it has been made apparent to a person that this is in fact the guidance from Allah, that the proof has been established and they recognize it as such, meaning not that they accept it, but they recognize it. They say, yes, I can see the truth in that. Yes, I can acknowledge the truth in that. When that occurs, they then become blameworthy if they reject that. If you are shown that this is the guidance from your Lord and you say, but I want to do my thing, then you are blameworthy. That is the very opposite of Islam. That is a display of ingratitude. And what do we say about ingratitude? What is the word for ingratitude that has become popular in the West? What is the word for ingratitude that is displayed? It's kufr, right? It's kufr. And so the one who has this ingratitude, that once the message has been made clear to them and they go on rejecting it, they are kuffar, they are a kafir. Not because they disbelieve, they might believe in something, but because they've seen the truth, they've seen the evidence, and they've chosen they willed, yani, with their free will, to reject that guidance from their Lord. And so this is a display of ingratitude, and that's what becomes blameworthy. But for those people who the message has not reached them except via Fox News or something like that, or they haven't had the opportunity to learn about Islam or hear about Islam, then this is another matter, and their case is with their Lord. I would stop real quick and also say that I think that this sending people to heaven and sending people to hell is something that humans are too quick to do, and in fact this is something that it's up to Allah. It's not up to us and our thoughts and our feelings, inshallah.
Alright, so moving on.
Started making non-Muslim friends. Christians said Jesus is the Son of God and is the way to heaven. Jews said they were the chosen one. Hindus said there's not one God, there are millions. And my atheist friends made fun of all of us. The more people I met, the more I realized everyone thinks their religion is right. And if one is right, then fundamentally everyone else is wrong.
Is that true that, if there's 10 million religions and one claims ultimate truth with a capital T, then fundamentally everything else is wrong?
No. That's not our Islamic belief anyway. So, one of the things that I would take a step back first and foremost and analyze some of the things that he said. His Christian friends believe that Jesus is the Son of God. Okay, that is the Christian belief. But notice what he said about the Jews, that they believe that they are the chosen people. Well, this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about them in the Quran. Allah said that He had chose them above all other people. So in Islam, they were viewed previously until they rejected Jesus. Until they rejected Jesus, alayhi salam, then they were the chosen people of Allah. This is something that is from Islam. And so that is not a difference between our religion and their religion. And as far as Hinduism having, so many gods, the reality is that that's not the case. All of the minor deities in Hinduism go back to Vishnu, Shiva, and Brahma. And then Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva themselves go back to Brahman, and who is the one true God, even in Hinduism. And so in this way, even Hindus believe in one true God, and then they divide Him, that singular Lord, up into parts. And so this has to be understood. As far as atheists go, if he says the same thing in this video, we're going to find out, we're going to see something interesting. As far as atheists laughing, it's because, they don't have simply they just don't, they've never actually, the soul searching that believers go into before they become atheists never transpires for the atheist, meaning that the atheist never soul searches to see if they're upon the truth or not. They simply just reject religion. It's very easy for them to reject. It's not very easy for them to contemplate, philosophize, and so forth and so on. So back to your question, and I know that we just spoke about all of that, but what I want to say is that what we believe in Islam is all of these religions. And I personally am anti-religious. I don't like the concept of religion. That's just who I am. I don't like dogmatism. But the reality is that all of these religions, if we can use this concept, or this term rather, all of them come from a single source. And all of them are, what we could say, they are links in a chain. And so in different times, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informed us that He sent a messenger to all people, right? Every people received prophecy. Every people received guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at different points in their history. And so what those people did with that guidance after the prophets left them, yani after the prophets died and returned to their Lord, then that's another matter. And so what we say about all of these religions, all of them, excuse me, is that they are from truth. They're from truth, right? And so the reality is that truth can still be found. You can find remnants of the truth in Christianity. You can find remnants of the truth in Judaism. You can find remnants of the truth in Hinduism. You can find remnants of the truth in Taoism, and all of these religions, and so many even of the animistic religions, you can find truth, right? But that truth has been tainted, for lack of better words. It's been mixed with falsehood. And so, in that light, what we say is that the Quran, and let's be frank, Islam too has been twisted in a lot of ways, right? So, for example, if you look at this sect versus this sect versus this sect, right? And so we say all are in the fire except one saved sect, and that saved sect is what? The one I'm on, because I gotta be right? And we're all going to say it's my sect, that's the right sect. But what is the criteria, even for Islam? What is the criteria? The criteria is the Quran. So every single truth claim, no matter what person, religion, or whatever is making these claims, it goes back to, does it agree with the Quran? Why? Because the Quran is the criteria, right? Or the criterion, I should say. The Quran is the furqan, right? By which we judge all truth claims. And so we don't say that it's all falsehood. We say that there are remnants of truth, and we can derive benefit from all of these things, but all of these things have been altered.
Okay. Alright, so we are almost done with this video.
Including me. That is when I stopped believing in religion and continued my belief in the idea of God and decided to create my own religion. It's called Gnosticism, in which I try to love myself and others to the best of my abilities and hope whoever is out there is watching.
Now, before you ask anything, this is certainly, I want to say, I would have, my whole thought process would have been different had this been the video that I saw, right? So, Allahu Akbar. I'm watching this for the first time, perhaps with many of you.
I actually, for the viewers out there, I had sent him the link, and then he sent me another link, but I just off the title thought it was the one. But anyway, inshallah khair. So the last few questions I had about this video is that, so he gave up Islam because, there's no way that only one can be true, and he started his own religion as a joke, actually. And so, but he continues his belief in the idea of God. And this is actually something I hear some other religious people say, perhaps Christians, they'll say that I live my life as if I believe in the idea of God. So what is he trying to say towards the end? What's his conclusion message? Because it's kind of confusing right now.
Is there something he says after this?
No, not as far as I know.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm asking for a reason, because in the video that I watched and that I sent to you, he says, I took a step back from religion. I still believe in God, but I took a step back from religion, because he doesn't believe that one religion is true and all the others have to be false. And he doesn't believe that people are going to be blamed simply because they were born into a particular religion. And so in that video he said the message was actually quite different. And in that other video, this concept of belief in God, he said, I still believe in God. He was very adamant in that. I still believe in God. And I thought that concept that I still believe in God was very interesting, because he counts atheists amongst the different religious groups, which they are. They are, because atheists tend to be the most dogmatic of all people of faith. Right? But the thing about it is that he's declaring, what he says is, I can't believe that all these people are wrong and one is right, but I still choose to believe in God. So what about the atheists? He's saying that all the people who are atheists, he still believes they're wrong, right? He's still declaring that. So he's still holding on to a belief. And he's still declaring some people wrong. And so where he's trying to be a universalist, where he's trying to accept everyone, being inclusive, he's still saying, I believe the atheists are wrong, right? Because he believes in God.
So, universalist?
Yeah,
which means, just for a layman term?
No, I'm saying that he's trying to be inclusive, where he's trying to allow everyone, everyone is equal, no one is wrong, is basically the point that he's getting at. And what we hear today is very popular, I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. Right? I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. And this whole concept of not being religious but spiritual, if you believe in God, it means something. And I'm not going, because I know that first and foremost, the main topic that you have is not this. And so I'll come back to this when we discuss the next topic, inshallah. When we are talking about the next topic, I'll come back to this issue of what does it mean to believe in God.
Alright, Jazakallah khairan.
Jazak.
And now we will switch over to our original topic, which is help my Muslim roommate is gay. So, Ustad Harim, in our day and age, young Muslims in college, a lot of times, me personally, I've come across a lot of gay people, and they're very nice people actually. They're actually more nice than a lot of other people of other faiths or even other Muslims. And, sometimes we befriend them and things like that. What is overall the Muslims' take on gay people? Should we stand up for their rights? I mean, we see Muslims all over, standing up for their rights because they stand up for ours. What's the situation?
I wanna say that you said something, and basically, it took my attention away. And you said to me that, you've met homosexuals who are even nicer than some Muslims. And to me, this is a very telling thing, because what this means to me is that we have a crisis in our ummah, to where we have Muslims who are viewed as less than nice, and even less nice than homosexuals. This is a problem. This is a problem. When the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he is Nabi Rahmah, he is the Prophet of mercy. When وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ, we didn't send you except as a mercy to all creation. He is our example. He said that I came to perfect good character, and أو كما قال. And the reality is that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we talk about Quran and Sunnah, brother, Quran and Sunnah, but we forget that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the most smiling of people. We forget that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the most gentle of people, that he was the most kind of people. And so the reality is that this where Muslims are harsh, where Muslims are seen as stern and difficult, this is a crisis in our character, right? And so irregardless of what other people are doing, right, whether these people are nice or not, the fact that we are not from the nicest people that we meet, right, and we're not. And you could say, well, I met really nice Muslims. Yeah, I've met some really nice Muslims too. But the fact that that's not how we're defined, it speaks of something wrong with the ummah. And so after having, I have to say that because that's a reality. After having said that, you asked the question of where does Islam stand on homosexuality. That's correct, right?
Yeah.
All right, it's simple. It's forbidden, right? Homosexuality. Let me be very clear. I want to be very clear when I say this. Can we legislate feelings? Can feelings be legislated?
No.
No, right? But actions can be legislated.
Yes.
And so the reality is that if a person has lust for someone of the same gender, we can't say, for example, this is haram. We can't say that if this person is aroused by someone of the same gender, if this woman is turned off by men and turned on by women, we can't say that this feeling is forbidden in Islam. Why? Because nobody can control that. That's something biochemical, the hormones going through the bodies, and so the reality is that being a homosexual is not necessarily something that is forbidden in Islam. Why? Because you have some homosexuals who choose this lifestyle. They go to college, they experiment, and then through that experimentation they found pleasure, and in that pleasure they've become twisted. That's the reality. And so they've chose to live that lifestyle, right? That's one set. To be that homosexual who has chosen that lifestyle, as people say, it is a lifestyle choice, right? If it is a lifestyle choice, that's forbidden in Islam, right? Khalas, right? If we're talking about a homosexual who has been abused as a small child, or as some people say, these hormones put into the food and these types of things, whatever the case might be, and this person has, when they reached puberty, they found that and you're not going to know whether you're a homosexual or not until you've reached puberty. So all of these people treating their 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds as though they are homosexual because this is something that they claim or something like that. No, how do you know what you're attracted to, right? At that age, you teach your children, you guide your children. You don't listen to your children. Your children are guided by you. And so if you're telling them, no, it's okay for you to go, Bobby, it's okay for you to like Johnny, go ahead, like Johnny, right? No, this is wrong, this is bad parenting. Right? Regardless of what's politically correct, it's bad parenting. But on the other hand, you tell Johnny, no, Johnny, you can be friends and you can love each other as friends, but we don't like people like that. We like Sally, as an example, right? And so you guide them at that early age. Now, when they hit puberty, then the reality will come forward. Who are they attracted to? If they are attracted to someone of the same sex, how can we possibly say that this person is that this homosexual, their homosexuality is forbidden in Islam? We can't make the claim that their homosexuality is forbidden in Islam because it's not something that they've chosen. Right? So now I want to talk, what I'm saying here is I'm talking about states of being. I'm talking about states of being. And so I don't want anyone to confuse what I'm saying with acting in a homosexual way. So what is clearly forbidden in Islam, and when we talk about the Islamic stance on homosexuality, we're not talking about what goes on inside of a person's heart and mind. We are not asked to judge the inner realities of people. That is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah, our Lord, He looks into the hearts of man. All we can go by is the outward manifestations. And so whether a person is born and they feel this way in their hearts and minds, and they are attracted to someone of the same gender sexually, yani they lust after them, they are aroused by them, whatever the case might be, if that is the case, then that is the case, right? That's something that is internal and we don't need to know. We don't need to pry. That is none of our business. But externally, the Prophet ﷺ forbade the male to dress like the female and the female to dress like the male, or the male to imitate the female to imitate the male. This is forbidden in Islam. But what's more is that it's forbidden to have any sexual relations. It's forbidden to have any sexual relations. And I say that whether it is penetration or oral or anything less than that, right? It is forbidden in Islam to have any of these sexual relations outside of marriage. And so how can it ever be permitted to act upon homosexuality when even that bond of marriage is forbidden for them? That's first and foremost. And then if someone said, well, it should be made lawful, well, Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam has given us the guidelines as for who it is and is not lawful to marry. That's first and foremost. But outside of that, even then, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam made clear to us the forbiddance of a man sleeping with a man. And this isn't something unique to Islam. Despite the popular trend amongst Christians, despite the popular trend amongst Jews, despite the popular trends from most other religious groups, following political correctness, following that which is the most popular fashion, it is found in the Old Testament, it is found in the New Testament, the forbiddance of homosexuality. This is not something unique to Islam, but it's certainly found within Islam. And again, so we're talking about two things. We're talking about the inner reality that a person is homosexual within themselves. We don't know. That's none of our business. And if a person is attracted to someone of the same gender, that has nothing to do with us. Right? It has nothing to do with us. But acting upon that outwardly, both in their demeanor, their dress, their behavior, as well as actually acting upon it in a sexual nature, yani being intimate with someone of the, and when I mean intimate, I mean physically intimate. I want to be very clear, and I'm using explicit words because I want to be clear. To love someone, to be close to someone, to have a relationship with someone, all of these things are lawful regardless of how you feel about them. It is acting on those feelings that become unlawful. And so we want to be clear, there's a difference between someone being, their state of being internally, being a homosexual, and the outward manifestation of that. They're acting upon their impulses. And the example that I always give, and I'm sure you have more questions, but the example I always give is, as a heterosexual male, right, there are many women whom I may find attractive if I didn't lower my gaze, right? May Allah protect us. Ameen.
Ameen.
But I'm not allowed to act on that. Right? As a heterosexual male, I am allowed multiple wives. So I can always say, well, no, I want to be with this wife. No, I want to be with this wife. No, I want to be with this wife. I divorce her, get another one. And we can jump around like that, right? But we're not permitted to just follow our lust. Every time we lust after somebody, come marry me, let me sleep with you and get rid of you, right? We're not allowed to, even though it would be lawful to marry her and be with her, it's not lawful to behave in that way, right? Even within the boundaries of the law. And that's within the boundaries of the law with a marriage. How much more so saying, oh, I'm going to date you this weekend, or I'm going to sleep with you this weekend, and then, one night stand or whatever the case might be. If this is unlawful for us as heterosexual males, then, how much more so a homosexual, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair.
Jazak.
So then, when it comes to politics, where do we stand in terms of their causes?
What cause?
Like, for example, same-sex marriage, or I guess in the sense that there's this narrative that LGBT people aren't treated the same, and they're not given the same opportunities. They're looked at as
What
different.
opportunity? Specific. What opportunity?
I don't know. I'm just telling you the.
No,
rhetoric
I
that
know,
hear.
I know. But this is the point that I'm making a point. I'm answering you.
Okay.
What opportunity are they not afforded? Listen, if as a Muslim man I marry a Muslima and I choose not to do it through the courthouse, and I get into an automobile accident, may Allah protect me, Ameen. And she is my wife in Islam, but not through the courthouse. Can she go and make decisions for me at the hospital?
No.
No.
'Cause
Can
legally
she
she's not
visit
your
me?
wife. I believe so. Yeah.
While I'm, there's some cases where it's family only to visit, right? Can she visit me if it's family only that's allowed?
No.
No, right? There's so much that she can't do, right? Because it's not through the courthouse. So that's their complaint. But we're in the same boat, right? We're in the same boat. If you choose not to marry through the court, and I know someone will say, well, we are choosing not to marry through the court. But that's not necessarily true because, for example, I'm married now, and I'm not looking for another wife. And so if my wife sees this, I don't want to come back next week with a black eye, inshallah. But the fact is that were I to want to marry a second wife, I could not marry her legally. That would be polygamy, and it's against the law. And so the same rights are not afforded, to us the same way that it's not afforded to them in these circumstances. My thing is that they talk about the rights, and really what they're talking about is tax rights. They're talking about wills. They're talking about property and emergencies and things like that. What exactly rights do they not receive that all other people receive? The right to marry.
Yeah.
Marriage isn't a right.
Interesting.
No.
I've actually heard also that, the best household to grow up in is heterosexual household.
We can talk about that, right? There's a lot of things that can be talked about. The nuclear family, all of these things. really, I want to go back to this issue, though. I want to stick with this issue for the moment and say, because the question isn't about where is it best to grow up. The question is that should Muslims stand up for the rights of homosexuals? And I would say to you, should we fight to open the bar on the corner? Should we fight so that people have a right to play the lottery? Should we fight for the right for the casino to open downtown? Should we fight for the right for people to use heroin? Should we fight for the right for people to shoot at police officers in the street? And somebody could say, oh, that's not fair. It is fair, because basically what we're talking about right now, or shoot at each other, shoot at another human being unjustly. You know, what we're talking about right now is that should we fight for the rights of the people who are being disobedient to Allah? That's the question. It's not about homosexuality. You want to isolate homosexuality, not you, but the proverbial you. You want to isolate homosexuality, but we can talk about any of these things. Is it okay to stand and fight and chant and march for the rights of people who say, I reject the guidance of Allah and I want to fight against Allah. I want to rebel against Allah. So is it right, is it proper for us as Muslims to ally ourselves with those people who are fighting, rebelling, and rejecting the guidance of their Lord? The answer is no, of course not. And so the answer specifically to that question, should we stand for the rights of gay rights or whatever it is, this alphabet mix, should we stand for their rights? The answer is absolutely not. You're not doing good. The appearance is good. You know, it looks good on the surface, but the reality is that you're enjoining evil and forbidding good when you do that. You have it backwards.
So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that إنها كانت فاحشة وساء سبيلا, that describing the homosexuality, he says that it is a fahisha. And I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala use the word fahisha as opposed to something like
fahisha is specific. Fahisha it means sins that are indecency. كل فاحش إثم لكن ليس كل إثم فاحش. يعني what this means is every sin, every indecency is a sin, but not every sin is an indecency, right? And so what basically this is a principle, and what we're saying here is that the fahisha, this is specific to illicit sins or indecent sins of indecency, fornication, adultery, you know, all of these types of things fall under fahisha, and so this homosexuality would be there amongst that group, inshallah. So because it fits under the term, the meaning of fahisha, inshallah.
Okay, jazakallah khair. There is a question, and it says that what's the Islamic stance on homosexuality being something natural? The LGBT community and its supporters usually defend it by claiming it's natural like heterosexuality.
If it was natural, right, then we would find it being also normal, right? And so what I mean by that is that, you know, you find people fighting a cause because something is not necessarily normative, and it's never been normative, and it's never been, you know, it's Allah. Bismillah. So what I want to say, I'll make it very simple, inshaAllah ta'ala. That's simply not the way Allah created us. And what's my proof for that? Because we can't we can't procreate male and male, female and female. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us male and female, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam and Eve. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created those two, and then from those two come the multitudes. Alhamdulillah, this is the answer enough, inshaAllah ta'ala, to say that it's natural. I say that it's a mutation if somebody is born in this way. And most people who grow up to become homosexuals, one of two things happen to them. Either there is some kind of chemical imbalance, right? Or they were abused as a child. I very rarely, and I'm not going to say it doesn't happen, but very rarely is someone, there's no chemicals that were taken. It was a completely natural pregnancy, a completely natural birth. Nothing happened to them in their childhood. And when they hit puberty, they said, no, I am not attracted to the opposite gender. I am attracted to my own gender. This is a very rare circumstance. Most cases, and in fact, when I say most cases, I don't know of any case that cannot be traced back to either some kind of mutation due to chemicals or some kind of abuse that occurred in their early childhood. And Allah knows best about these things. But again, I say along with that, with all of the chemicals that we're being pumped with these days, and the mothers are being pumped with these days, and all of the hormones and these things, these yani, what is it called, seedless fruit, and all of these things, genetically modified foods that we're being given, is it any surprise that we find these mutations in our society? Wallahu a'lam.
Jazakallah khair.
Jazak.
This is basically all that I had for today.
Okay, so we're going to, because that's all you had for today, and I know you want to keep these short, but let's go back to an issue, all right? So what about homosexuality, right? So let's ask a very basic question. Is there a God or not, right? And so I said we'd come back to this topic because it should come up in the question of homosexuality. The question of is there a God or not must come up when we speak of homosexuality. It has to. And so what I say, and I'm going to speak very bluntly because it's important that we're clear. If a person sleeps with their spouse, or sleeps with someone they're having an affair with, yani someone they're having a fling with, if someone fornicates is basically what I'm saying, or if they masturbate, or they have a homosexual encounter, all four of these things in the physical realm, you have arousal, you have stimulation, you have ejaculation. Right? Physically, nothing is different. There's arousal, stimulation, ejaculation. Right? And so, what's the difference? What makes one okay? What makes something okay and something else not okay? Why is homosexuality wrong? What makes it wrong? Why is being a homosexual wrong but being a heterosexual okay? Why is it okay for you to marry one woman, your cousin, and it's not okay for you to marry your sister or your aunt? Why is it okay for you to, these questions? Why? What makes one thing okay and one thing not okay? And so it comes back to the fundamental question: why do we say that it's not okay to be homosexual? This is a question that needs to be asked, and this. Why can't we stand for their rights and so forth and so on? It goes back to a fundamental question of, is there a God or not? If there's no God, and I want to be very clear here, you know my stance, so I'm going to be clear. If there's no God, then we are like weeds. We sprout, we mature, we may flower, we give off fruit, we seed, yani reproduce, we wither and we die. That's what humans are. If there is no God, if we're a product of evolution, if we're accidental, then we are weeds. And not only are we weeds, but we're cancerous to the earth. We're the only species on this earth that we're aware of that goes and destroys everything in its path. We destroy the earth, we destroy the sea, we destroy the air, we destroy one another, and we destroy all living things around us. This is what we find from humanity, and this is what the angel said. Are you going to create something that is going to sow corruption in the earth and spill blood? Right? And so this is the reality of what we find from human beings. If there is no God, then we are the worst thing on the face of this earth, period, hands down. But also, if there is no God, and we are just accidents, then all morals, all ethics, All of these things are relative. All of these things are constructs. All laws are simply social constructs. And therefore, there is no real truth. There is no fundamental right. There is no fundamental wrong. No one can argue that homosexuality is wrong if there is no God. No one can argue if we're here by accident. That means that we have no purpose. That means that we have no moral standing. We can judge what is right and wrong but based upon benefit and loss, but that's the only criteria we really have to judge right and wrong. So the reality is that if there is no God, if a person fundamentally believes that there is no God, then there is no argument against homosexuality, period. If you don't believe, and this goes back to what you said, what about the concept? He said, I believe in the concept of God, right? The concept of God?
Yeah, I believe in the idea of God.
The idea of God. See, this is, and again, that wasn't in the video that I had watched, but this, I believe in the idea of God, this is going to say, this, I believe in the idea of God, is saying that, you know, I'm not sure. I believe this idea is a good idea, but is it real or not? That's Allahu A'lam, right? And that's...
Nah. The idea of God.
So the point here is that believing in the idea of God is not the same thing. What that's saying is that I like an idea of there being a purpose. I like the idea of there being an empirical right and an empirical wrong. I like the idea of there being a moral truth and an ethical right. You know, and so in this way, they like the idea of that. Because if you disbelieve in God, you disbelieve in all these things. Basically, if you disbelieve in God, you believe that I'm going along with the program because that's what's best for me. I won't kill him because that's what's best for me. I won't steal because that's what's best for me. I won't do this or that because that's what's best for me. But not because it's really right. Because there is no real right if you don't believe in God. When you believe that there is a God, you believe in... what does it mean to believe in God? Let's take everything away and say, what does it mean to believe that there is a God? What is the one thing that it means to you? What one single impact does it have on every individual to believe that there is a God? It is to believe that there is a purpose maker. Because God is wise. He created us. If He created us with a purpose. And if we were created with a purpose, if He is a purpose maker, then we have purpose. If we have purpose, then He has set the guidance for us to fulfill that purpose. He has shown us the way to fulfill that purpose. And so it is because we believe in God, because we believe He is a purpose maker, because we believe that we have purpose, because there is empirical right and wrong, that we can say definitively that homosexuality is wrong, because we believe in God. I'll take another 5 minutes. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Because then the question will be, well, what if I don't believe? And so I want to say, and I'll make it very quick, if you believe in science, math, and physics, you should believe in God. If you believe in science, then the reality, the fundamental principle of science is that there are cause and effect relationships. This conventional relationship of cause and effect. Everything happens because of a reason. Anything that is within the universe, all matter, has something that brought it from non-existence into existence. And therefore, there is a creator. If you believe in science, there must be an uncaused causer, as Plato had coined it, Socrates has coined it. The uncaused causer, that is God. If you believe in math, everything is by design. Everything is by design. The size of the earth, the size of the sun, the size of the moon, the distance between each, the rotation of each, all of this is by design. It's all mathematically exact. It is designed, and this is what Fred Hoyle, the great astronomer of the last century, mentioned. He said when he looks out into space, he sees design, and therefore he knows that there must be a designer. The reality is that if you believe in math, you must believe in a designer, and that designer, of course, is God. If you believe in physics, from the moment of the singularity, the Big Bang, or whatever that singularity may have been, Stephen Hawking said that the laws of physics had to be in place within a millisecond of the singularity. Those laws had to be in place. Therefore, the laws came either at the same time or before the singularity in order for the universe to take the shape that it takes, and those laws are still in place. If you believe in the laws of physics, you must believe in a lawmaker. They cannot be a product of the singularity because they were already in place at the time of the singularity, and therefore there must be a lawmaker. If you believe in science, you believe in a creator. If you believe in math, you believe in a designer. If you believe in physics, you believe in a lawmaker. The creator, the designer, the lawmaker, that is who we call Allah Azza wa Jal. And Allah said in the Quran, إِنَّ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ لَآيَاتٌ لِلْأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. Indeed, in the creation of the heavens and the earth and the alternation of the night and the day, there are signs for people of deep thought, and those signs are science, math, and physics, as we just laid out. Wallahu a'lam. And so, if you believe in these things, you should believe in God. Wallahu a'lam. And Allah knows best, inshallah. And I think that that suffices.
So you're basically saying that anyone who claims that they don't believe in God, well, they believe in him in some way or another because they believe in the laws of physics and math and
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that if they believe in these things, then they should believe in God. To believe in these things, right, and reject God is ignorance. No matter how smart they might be, no matter how many degrees they might have, no matter how many awards they might win, if they believe in these things but reject the creator, designer, lawmaker, then they're ignorant. And I say that to say, I want to be very clear with people like Fred Hoyle and the like. Many times we find mathematicians believing in God, believing in a designer, but they reject the Western concept of God. They reject the gods that man have made in our own image, right? And so they reject these deities that these religious people follow. They don't reject the designer. They don't reject God. They don't reject the real, the true, the one. They reject the man-made gods that everybody seems to be, arguing and fighting over.
Jazakallah khairan, Ustad Harim. And that pretty much concludes our episode of The Indigenous Muslim, episode number 3 of Motivational Muslims. If there are any concluding words, and then we will go ahead and shut down.
Because this whole topic, honestly, it just caught me off guard. I was not prepared for this. Had I been prepared for this, we would have taken it a whole different route, inshallah. It would have been more structured. But la bats, inshallah, no problem. What I want to say is that if there are any questions or challenges, for that matter, this is a YouTube channel, and so it's available. Comment at the bottom. I will get back to you. It's okay to disagree. As we said when we first started the podcast, we should know how to discourse between politics and religions. We shouldn't just keep our mouths shut because it's politically correct or it's politically incorrect to say something. It's okay to have discourse. As long as what you say is respectful, I'll talk to you all day long. Labats, mashallah. But the fact is that the comment section is there. So if you disagree with what I say, use it, but use it respectfully, inshallah. And may Allah accept this effort of ours and make it a means of benefit for us in this life and the hereafter. Ameen. Wa salatu wa salami ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.